Hello and welcome to the Marley Bird YouTube channel. In this video, I am going to show you section 4 of the Marley Bird garter stitch shawl knit along. At this point, you have completed all 3 sections and you're ready to finish it off with an applied I-cord and then weave in your ends. I'm going to show you how to do this in this really quick video today, so let's go ahead and jump in. I'm going to show you how to do the applied I-cord instructions on the sample that we've been using since the last video. So you can see here I have a good number of seed stitch happening, and I did not change color on the last 2 stitches of this swatch because I want to show you how the I-cord stitches actually join to the swatch stitches, and in order to have you better see that on the video, I'm doing it in 2 different colors. I'm saying all that so that you know your applied I-cord is supposed to be done in the last color you used in section 3. So what would be your color B? All right, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pick this up, and you'll see in the instructions it automatically says that you need to cast on 4 stitches. Now here is a really great way just to cast on really simply right here at the end of your work. So I'm at the end of my work, I'm going to do a cable cast on just to apply my 4 extra stitches. So I'm going to take my right hand needle and I'm going to go between these 2 stitches. See, I'm between the stitches, I'm not in any actual stitch, I'm between them. I'm going to yarn over and pull a stitch up. If I extend that stitch and I swivel my left hand needle around, see how I'm scooping at the yarn right there? I want to scoop at it and put it right back onto my left hand needle. Now I go between the purple and the sea foam, so between those 2 stitches, yarn over, come through, extend and swivel and put that on. I'm just going to do this so that I get 4 stitches. This is a really great cast on to know. In general, you guys, you could make a cast on like this for the beginning of your work on other projects. It makes a really nice edge. So I have my 4 stitches cast on and it's time to jump in and do the applied I-cord. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to knit to within 1 stitch of my work and the I-cord. So I knit 3 stitches, which leaves me with the 1 stitch left from my I-cord cast on, and then all of my stitches for my work. What I want to do essentially is join this purple stitch to that seafoam colored stitch. So what I'm going to do is a knit 2 together. So I simply do a knit 2 together. Now all of my stitches are over here, but when we do an I-cord, we have to start knitting on that stitch there. So all I need you to do is slip your stitches right back onto your left hand needle. This is so easy, you guys, and it's such a beautiful finish. Now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to knit again. Now you'll notice my yarn is coming from all the way over here. That's okay. That's the way you do an I-cord, okay? And this first stitch might be a little bit loose, and that's okay. So I'm going to yarn over and pull through. So knit the first, knit the second, knit the third, and then I'm going to join this purple to this sea foam. So I'm always joining the last stitch of my 4 stitches that I cast on to the next stitch in line of my work, of my shawl. What that does is it joins the I-cord to the shawl and it finishes off those stitches. So all those 4 stitches are done. I slip them back over onto my right hand needle and I carry on. I'm going to keep doing this and talk to you guys. So I'm going to knit 3. And then I'll do a knit 2 together. Now obviously your I-cord will not be a different color than what you're working onto, so it's going to be very important that you count 1, 2, 3 and then a knit 2 together. 1, 2, 3, knit 2 together. You'll get into a rhythm that it will be so easy that you won't have any problem with it. But like I said, I wanted to be able to show you how this looks using a different color because I think it's easier to see what it is you're doing. I'm going to slip these 4 stitches back over and then repeat. Now, let's talk about the 4 stitches. Why did I choose 4 stitches? I liked the look of the more rounded I-cord, and that's why I chose 4 stitches instead of 3. But you could absolutely do an I-cord with just 3 stitches. You could do an I-cord with 5 stitches also. It's a little bit more bulky, but it's possible. So I'm just pointing that out so that way you know that if you come across an I-cord at some future date and it has, 3 stitches or whatever, you'll know that you'll be okay working along. Now you'll notice my first stitch is a little bit loose and I'm not worrying about it, okay? I'm just carrying on, making sure I knit 3 and then I knit 2 together. and then I put them right back onto my left-hand needle. And you will notice I'm going into the back leg as I slip them over, because I don't want to twist them. I don't want to change their orientation, them being the stitches as they're resting on my needle. So I'm going to knit my 3, do my last one, and carry on. I want to get to the end of this swatch so I can show you how to finish this all off. And there's many different ways you can finish off these last 4 stitches. I'll talk to you about a couple of them, but it's really just pretty darn basic. You just essentially want to get rid of 4 stitches, right? And we want them to all kind of come together to a, I don't know if point is the right word, but you don't want them to just be bound off, because that gives you a really flat section. We still want it to maintain the roundedness. So what I'm going to do here, I'm on my last stitch, so I'm going to knit my 3, and I'm going to knit my 2 together, and I'm on my last bit. Okay, I have nowhere else to go. So what I need to do here is I need to finish off these 4 stitches. So what I did on mine is I slipped these over, and then I did a SSK. So I slipped, and then I knit those, and then I knit these 2 together. Okay. And then what I did is I had my SSK jump over my slip, slip, knit. You see that? All you do now is you just, I just pulled that through one more to give myself a nice little knot where I can apply that there. Cut my string, leaving at least 4 to 6 inches, and voila. Let's make sure your I-cord looks like mine, okay? Let's see. If you look down here, you can see the stitches that were on my needle, obviously, because they're a different color than my I-cord. But you'll notice they're all just really simply just knit together with the applied I-cord. Now the I-cord itself, as I roll it, it looks like a bunch of knit stitches, right? It looks like a bunch of V's, and it's really pretty. It's a beautiful finish. What I love most about it is that it is stretchy. As you become more experienced knitters, you will notice that there are many different bind-offs that will tell you that this is a stretchy bind-off. Well, obviously an applied I-cord might not be the best thing for everything you make, but if you need a stretchy bind-off and you need a little decoration, the applied I-cord is a really great one to use, because as you look down here, it is really nice and stretchy. Now I chose the applied I-cord for our shawl because I wanted to make sure that we didn't accidentally bind off our stitches really super tight and then we weren't able to extend out our shawl very well. So that's why I chose the applied I-cord. Plus, I think that this is just one of those extra tools that you now have in your knitter's toolbox that allows you to become really super great knitter, okay? So I'm gonna set this aside and let's take a look at my shawl in progress, because I wanna show you how to weave in the ends. You finished your I-cord and now you have all these pesky ends to weave in. You want to make sure that your shawl looks really nice and finished. So I'm going to show you how I weave in ends when I'm using the Red Heart soft yarn to make sure that they don't pop out and become unsightly. So let's take a look down here. I'll show you what I mean. As you look down here, you can see all of my random ends that are just poking out, waiting to be woven in. And I did tie on all of my colors to my previous color, just like I showed all of you to do. Now, what's cool about this particular shawl is if you decided you didn't want to untie those little knots before you wove in your ends, you could absolutely do that. It doesn't interfere with the look of this actual shawl. So if you want to do that, you can. I'm giving you permission. But if you want to be a good little knitter and undo your knot, do that as well. It really doesn't matter. The biggest concern here is that as we go to weave in our ends, we want to make sure that we are not pulling our tails so much so that we're distorting the stitch on the edge. Let me show you what I mean. As you look down here, you can see here is my white color that is tied on right there, and my nice little blue color. And see how stretched out that stitch is there? See, if I even pull that out even more, it can really get super stretched out. Well, if I pull my tail obviously it tightens up. And so I just want to make sure I don't over tighten it. See if I over tighten it, how that starts to pucker up. I don't want that. So when I'm weaving in my ends, I want to make sure that my edge that I've been working with all along is still the nice straight edge, and I'm not over tightening one of my tails, one of my colors, so that it distorts the whole process. Does that make sense? Hopefully you can see that right there. Now, when I go to weave in my ends, I like to use a bent tip tapestry needle. I have friends who like to use chenille needles as well with a big eye to them, and you could use that also. The reason I like the bent tip steel needles is because we're actually going to take our yarn, our tail, and this needle and split the threads down this work. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to pick this up. And with the blue, first off, we just made sure that it didn't pull too tight. So I think I'm at a good balance right here. And I'm going to try to follow along just in the blue color right here, okay? Now, the blue, if you remember, was my stockinette. So I have a 2 rows, 2 knit rows, and then I have 2 purl rows back here that I have to deal with. So what I'm going to do is I'm looking right here. I can see the 2 purl rows. Like there's the purl row that joins to the orange. Here's the purl row that joins to my white. So I'm going to take my tail and I'm going to start over here at the edge, and I'm just going in between, splitting the yarn itself. See that? So it's not coming through on the other side. It is just split through the yarn. And I'm going to do that down this whole row. And you'll notice I have my left hand on the opposite side of my work, not only kind of holding my work up for me so that I can have it a little bit closer to my eyes, but to make sure that my needle doesn't pop through to the other side. All right, so I'm just splitting through the yarn. Can you see this? Splitting through the yarn. So once I do that, I'm going to pull this down. And again, I want to make sure I don't over pull that section. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of a little, just to make sure it's not too pulled tight so that I get some slack. And now I'm going to come back the opposite direction, and I'm going to go through the yarn itself again on the purl row right below the one I went into. If you decided to go into the one you just went into, you absolutely could, and I'm going to show you how to do that here in a little bit actually. The biggest thing would just to make sure that you don't accidentally go the exact same path back, otherwise you're going to undo all of the work you just did. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. My big fingers aren't in the way. All right, so I'm all the way down. I've split through all of my yarn, and what I'm going to do now is I want to make sure that I have a little bit of extra slack down here. So I'm just putting my thumb down here on the yarn. So before I pull this through, I stop it. See how I have that little loop right there? What that is going to do is as I stretch this out, see how that little loop just got eaten up? Okay, I stretch it out, it got eaten up, and now this yarn here isn't going anywhere. Okay, so I wove it down and I came back and it's not going anywhere. If I look at the opposite side, you can't see anything over there. If I look over here, it's a little bit thicker, just a little bit thicker right down that section, but not enough that you're going to notice too much. I snip my yarn right up to the edge this time because it's all woven in, and I get rid of that tail. Now I'm going to go over here to the white one, and I'm going to thread my tapestry needle with the white because, as you know, the white was my garter stitch. So what's really great about the garter stitch is we kind of have this like a gutter, that's the way I like to call it, between the rows. You know, the ridge, the garter stitch ridge, you kind of have a gutter on the opposite side. So that makes it really easy for me to go ahead and split my yarn as I'm going down, and I just make sure I stay between the gutter. And I'm going to stay to one side, making sure I'm just going into the stitches, splitting the stitches. You'll notice I'm just splitting stitches all the way down the gutter on this one side. Okay? And then, so I just go down a little ways, probably about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. Okay, pull that through. And now I'm going to go back the opposite direction. And this time I'm going to stay on the same side of the gutter to show you how to do that. So I've got to turn this a little bit for myself. What I've got to make sure here is that I don't go back in. Right there's where I came out. So I want to make sure I don't go back in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop over one extra stitch and split that one. and then start coming back the same way. And this time, not only am I going into those stitches in the gutter I went into before, but I'm actually putting my needle through the yarn itself that I just pulled through. This is very similar to like a Russian join, okay? The reason I'm doing that is because it really locks the yarn in place in itself. When we're dealing with acrylic yarn, it does not have any sort of like barbs or hairs on it like a wool does. And so we need to do something to help it maintain, like get stuck together. So that's the way I've done that, is I've actually taken the needle, went back through the gutter stitches, and I went through my tail itself. You notice I left a little lip, and that's so that way I can pull and then just make sure it's nice and clean. Look how hidden away that is. Oh my gosh, that is just beautiful. It doesn't show up on the other side. I can snip this clean, and that is not going anywhere. As you're going along, you'll notice you'll get to a point like me right here where you have all of these colors, but you only have one gutter stitch. So here you are, I have two oranges, and I have my garter stitch right here. So I had to start and end at the end of these two rows of garter stitch. So this is where it's really convenient to maybe use this tail and go into the gutter stitch and work into the stitches that are on the top, and then use this tail, go into the gutter stitch and work into the stitches on the bottom, making sure that when I come back through, not only am I working through my shawl, but I end up like taking my needle and essentially let me see if I can show you on this. I'm essentially just kind of poking it through the actual tail itself as I'm going along. Very similar to something like that. And so when I pull that through there, it really locks it into place. So I'm going to show you this orange one real quick. I am just going through my stitches, splitting the stitches all the way down, and I'm making sure I'm just going into the bottom stitches of the quote-unquote gutter, and I'm going into the same color that I am working into. You could mix and match, like I could take the orange through the blue because technically I'm splitting the yarn, right? It's never supposed to show through. But if you have the orange stitches right there and available to me, I don't think that's necessary to go through the blue. There's no reason for me to. So I went down one. Remember what I said, I always skip over one extra leg of the stitch or one extra stitch, and then I start following my path back. And as I go back, I want to make sure not only am I going into the stitches, but I am weaving my yarn through the tail itself also, because it really will lock all of my tails in place. Make sure I have that little lip right there, so when I extend, look, it doesn't go anywhere. Oh my gosh, this is so pretty. I love it when you're able to weave in your ends really nice and pretty and you get just a really nice finished look. Look how pretty that is. Oh my gosh, that is so pretty. Okay guys, you know how to do the applied I-cord and how to weave in your ends. Your shawl is complete. I hope you've had just as much fun as I have making this wonderful shawl. And I know that many of you in the Facebook group are already considering doing more shawls after seeing all the different color combinations that are available out there with the Red Heart Soft yarn. It's amazing. I hadn't even thought about some of those color combinations, and I'm looking at those shawls thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to make another one of those because that is so pretty. I have seriously enjoyed this entire process, and I cannot wait for the next Marley Bird Red Heart Knit Along. So make sure you hit subscribe, smash that like button, so that way you are up to date whenever there's a new video released, and you will be the first to know when there's a new knit along. I've been asked many times if I'm going to keep the Facebook group active, and as of right now, yes, the Facebook group will remain active. So all of you who are a part of the Facebook group, you can stay in there, and I will just maintain that group, and every knit along will just keep working in that same process with the group. So those of you who have caught on to these videos a little bit later, but you still want to join into the group, it is still available. So make sure you just click that little link right there and you will be right over to the Facebook group. I am so proud of all of you for doing this shawl, and I know that many of you are brand new knitters, and look at this huge project you just finished. I really hope you guys will send me pictures of your shawls as they're finished, as you're wearing them, as you're giving them as gifts. I would love to see all of the recipients' happy faces as they're wearing their their shawls. I'm so proud of all of you, and I hope that you will come back for more. I'm Marley Bird, proud spokesperson for Red Heart Yarns, and this is the Marley Bird Garter Stitch Shawl Knit Along. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Bye.